So this rack of wonders here contains a few components, and at the top you can see here, this is the amplifier for the induction loop, which is a wire that goes around the church in order to broadcast a signal to hearing aids. This little area here is the receivers for all the radio microphones. So the radio mics, so radio 1, radio 2, radio 3 and radio 4. So these are lapel mics, and so these have microphones that snap onto a collar or a piece of top of the piece of clothing in order to pick up the voice. And this is the radio pack that goes into your pocket or onto your belt. And just get this open. And in here are the batteries, and to switch one of these on, you just press and hold the on and off switch, and you are ready to go. You'll notice that when this comes on, you can see mute fairly clearly there. Now that will not work unless you click this little thing at the top to unmute it. And one way you can see that it's unmuted, I believe, is that you should be able to see a level going into here. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Yes. Sorry, you can't see that very well, but I can. That level on the left-hand side, you can see a level going into it, and so it's actually receiving something. But I'll switch that back on. Now, one thing you need to actually, I'll switch it off. So to switch it off, you press and hold. Now, one thing you need to be sure of is that if things aren't working, or if the leader who's got it all plugged in is saying, I can't hear anything, one of the first things is, have you got it on mute? And they need to take it off mute, otherwise you'll never get a sound out of them. So you've got 3 of those, which is fantastic. They're all high quality things. And the 4th thing is a high quality lollipop mic, standard mic, and the way to turn this on is you hit this red button here and you get the red light. I don't know if that stays on, but sometimes they go on for a bit till they're on, then they go off to save battery. And you can often see, so you can see the battery is at 2 out of 3. That's not bad. That 364 300 is the frequency on which it's broadcasting and going into, I'd imagine, this receiver. Okay, so let's switch that off. Now this piece of kit here is the amplifier. So your microphones send signals to here. These then send signals into the mixing desk. This is a new mixing desk, and they are on these channels here, 1 2 3 4. Then this sends a signal out of here, the master output, into the amplifier. That then amplifies those signals to the speakers out front. And there are 3 sets of speakers out front. I will go and show you them now. Front of house speakers are, as you would imagine, they are here and here. Now there is another front of house speaker, and that's that speaker there. And they're all operating off 1 channel out of the amplifier. And then the other output is feeding this speaker, the chancel speaker. And this is hit so the choir can hear the sermon, basically, or the choir can hear the person speaking at the front or reading from the lectern. While I'm here, I will just show you where the other microphones are in the church. There's one here on the lectern. There's one here dangling above the choir, and there is one at the altar. And there is also a mystery one here, which no one's managed to work out what it does. And also, there are microphones on the organ here. Pretty good ones, Sennheisers. One there, and one there. Should have switched it on, but... Right, you can hear that. You can hear it all kicking in, can't you? So, everything's lighting up there. And everything's lighting up here. Even without getting the iPad and fire it, because an iPad controls this now. One thing to just double check is that as I said before, the front of house is being driven from one channel from this, and this one channel means that we're only taking a right-hand feed. So this is the right-hand master volume on the mixer. Physical master volume. Make sure that is at 3/4, because all the levels on the iPad that I'm going to talk about later are based on the fact that that's at 3/4. Before I move on to the iPad, the second channel on this, which is feeding the chancel speaker, is taking a secondary output from the desk, and that is a different mix of all the mics and stuff. It's called auxiliary 1. It's a bit of a technical term. You might also hear the term monitors 1, but auxiliary 1 takes a different mix of all the inputs and feeds them into this amplifier, the other side, and takes it into the chancel speaker, the white one that I just showed you there. You don't really need to worry about that because the levels are set. Okay, so I'm going to fire up the iPad and we'll see what's going on there. Okay, here's the iPad. I'm going to just walk you through this. The iPad, I'm going to turn it on. It's got a case on it, so it's a big chunky case. So top right as you look at it like that, is the on button. And you have to give it a good old squeeze. Oh, it was on sleep mode. Okay, fair enough. So I'm going to tap this. And the code is the ingenious 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There you go. Now I'm going to force this in. I'm going to just unplug the charger. Like that. And then I'm going to hold this up. I'm going to force that into landscape mode. And you'll see here an app called Soundcraft UI. And you'll notice that this is also called the Soundcraft UI 24. It's because it's got 24 channels. So I now, actually before I do anything, I'm going to go to settings. And I'm going to check that the Wi-Fi is connected to the Soundcraft. Not this XLN for small business, that's the internet for the church. This box creates its own Wi-Fi signal, and you have to latch onto that Wi-Fi network, which is called Soundcraft UI 24. However, we have out here, ingeniously, so in order that this iPad works everywhere inside the church, Mr. Bob Foley has generously donated an extension thing here, and this is now called Soundcraft UI 24 EXT extension. That's the one you want to connect to, so I'm going to do that now. Good. If you get into trouble and you can't connect to the network, it's not booting up, then just close it all down, close the iPad down, and start again. So I'm going to go and now open this, and you should get this screen come up. Soundcraft by Harman loading. And here we've got the channels. Now, I should be able to show you, because there is, in theory, it's all on, isn't it? And you will notice here that the lectern mic here, the says lectern, you can see that that is receiving a level, because that green readout is going up and down. And watch this, if I tap the microphone, and let's look at the level. So you know you've got a signal. And you can probably even hear this when on the microphone. 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. Beautiful. Now, you'll notice that this is set up for a 10:30 service, because here it says 10:30. Now, what we've done is we've created two settings. One for, I'm going to click on this wheel here, this cog, to show you where the settings for each individual service are. Now, it's not that screen, so you hit the cog, and then you hit shows. Yeah. And then you can see there, you've got here shows, St. Peter and St. Paul, snapshots, which are the different settings for the mixing desk within the show. You've got an 8 o'clock, a 10:30. So I'm going to load up the 8 o'clock now, okay? So I'll click 8 o'clock, click load. You can see that's loading in. And then I go back to the mix and the gain. The mix is your main screen. And that's the 8 o'clock settings. You can see the organs, there's no organ, so that's right down, it's on mute. The choir, there's no choir, so that's down on mute. But you can see that lapel 1 is open for the speaker, the main leader, and the lectern is also open, and the altar mic is open because the priest moves from the crossing here and speaks from here using the lapel mic, but then will also speak from up here at the altar. So if I've got this right, you should be able to hear me tap this. There you go. Good news. Also, this is switched off on the 8 o'clock setting because there's no choir to monitor to get the sound to. There's no point. Lectern mic is on for the reader, so that should be working as well. And we're ready to go. What you have here is you have a master, which here, which controls all the sound, so up and down. It's currently set on -2 decibels, which is just 2 notches under full volume. And if you turn that down there, that will be, you'll get nothing out of this system with the master turned down. But you can adjust it if you think it's too loud, and you've got a little bit of what we call headroom. You've got a bit more. You can take that up to probably 0 without any feedback. It's quite sensitive. So you can take it there, but it was at -2. Okay, I'm going to just call up the 10:30. So back to the cog. And we're already on that screen now because we've called it up before. 10:30, load, off we go. Okay, so, and then you get back to the mixing desk, you go mix. Okay. Now you'll notice that the organ is on mute. So what happens here is you have sort of 2 modes. You have one where the priest's speaking or someone's reading, and more of a kind of audio mode, or spoken word mode, and then you have a sung mode. And what all you do is you would unmute the choir overhead, so you just hit that mute, and the organ, and you'll get the choir amplified out front. And that's also quite important because we will, when you're recording the service through the iPhone, then that will create a very nice sound, because that's been set up to balance the organ and the choir, and that's what the people on Facebook will be hearing. So it's quite important that you do unmute and mute when the songs come on. So the song's finished or finishing, you get ready to go, bing, bang, bong, mute, mute. And actually you might have muted Claire's, otherwise she'll be singing out front. And then you would unmute at the end of the song, and she would be, or whoever's leading would be back in the room. Now these, if you've got more than one person with a lapel mic, so lapel 1, lapel 2, lapel 3, which we saw earlier, or if you are doing an interview section in the service, you might want to use the handheld. These are all muted as for a start, but you can unmute them during the service as and when you need to. Okay, powering down the system. So to get out of this, it closes like any other app on an iPad. So you double tap the home screen and you discard that. You can also get rid of the settings, that's where you logged onto the Wi-Fi. Get rid of that. And to power down the iPad, you press and hold this thing here. Press and hold that. Press and hold that. And you get the slide to power off. So slide that off. And the iPad's off. And now I'll plug that into charge. Not forgetting to switch this off. So you just switch it off at the plug, and you'll hear this all go down. Yep. So that's those powering down, the fans whirring down. That's all off. I've got no lights. Okay. Make sure all your mics are switched off. Oh, and the iPads are on charge and stuff. I'll just go and do that now. But yeah, that's about it. So there we have it. Switch the light off. Off we go. Happy days.